Hi everyone, welcome to Congruent Shapes and Congruent Triangles. This is day one. We're going to be talking about congruent parts and congruent statements today. If you look in the box on page 1, it says definition of congruent polygons. You have two triangles. In your packet, they are not color copies, but on my screen, you should be able to see the color coding that is going on. So for example, angle A and angle H are congruent, and that's a shape or a symbol that looks like that. So if you look at A, you notice that it has two of those arc marks, and so does H. If you look at B and J, they each have one of those arc shapes or marks. And if you look at C and K, they have three each. And what happens is if they have the same number of arc marks, then they are congruent. Same thing with the sides. You have AB with one tick mark, and you have HJ with one tick mark. BC has two tick marks, and JK has two tick marks. And then AC has three tick marks, and HK has three tick marks. So we can take that information and write it into a congruence statement. We can say that the triangle A, B, C is congruent to the other triangle H, J, K. And in being very careful about our order, we can see that A and H are the first letters and they're congruent. B and J are the second letters and they're congruent. And C and K are the same same color letter, and they're in the third letter and they're congruent. So coming down here and looking at the activities in numbers 1 and 2, you can see that they have already put the markings, the arcs and the tick marks onto the triangles. And what they're asking us for is right here. They want us to look for FD. Now that is a side of a triangle. See the segment symbol. So we want to take FD and we want to find its congruent partner. Well, we're looking for something with three tick marks. And we found this side right here with three tick marks. That is side KI, or you could say IK, however you prefer. But you do need to write that with a segment symbol and the two letters under the segment symbol. If you go over to question 2 says we want to know what angle A's congruent partner is. So if we go up here and we look at angle A, we see that angle A has two arc marks. So we want to come over to the other triangle and look for the angle that has two arc marks, and that's angle M. Now in 3 and 4, the problem with the triangles that you see is that they do not have any markings. So you might be thinking, well, we can't do that. However, I'm here to tell you that you can, simply by using, and I drew instead of highlighted, simply by using the congruent statement. If we want to know angle U's congruent partner, first we have to find angle U and say, okay, I see that angle U is the second letter in this congruent statement on the left-hand side. So for this triangle, U is the second or the middle letter. So I'm going to come over to the other triangle and find the letter of the angle that is in the same spot, angle F. You do not need those markings if you have the congruent statement. Go ahead and pause the video for a moment and try number 4. So in number 4, we were looking for the congruent partner to angle W, and we do not have any markings here. So we have to go up to our congruent statement, find angle W, and say, oh, angle W is the first angle or letter. Then we're going to go over to our other triangle. Angle G is the first angle or letter. So angle W's congruent partner is angle G. Let's turn the page over to page 2. So what we're going to ask you guys to do in just a moment is to mark the angles and sides of each pair of triangles to indicate that they are congruent. I'm going to do number 13 for you, and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video and do number 14. So the first thing I'm going to do is the angles. I like doing the angles first because they're easy to find. Angle B's partner is angle M. So I'm going to give them each one arc. Angle D's partner is angle L. So I have to give them 2 because I've already used up the 1 arc symbol. Angle C is angle K's partner. So they get 3. I'm sorry, that's not prettier. Kind of hard on the computer screen to do that. So now we're going to do our sides. And this is important that we look at the congruent statement. Remember that a side has 2 letters. So we're going to need 2 letters to look at. So for example, if I looked at B and D, those are the first and second letters. That would represent this side. If I go over to the other triangle and I look at ML, that would be the congruent partner. So I would put a tick mark there and a tick mark on M to L. Then I would look at the next 2 letters, the D and the C, and give that 2 tick marks. DC has a congruent partner with LK. And then really the last side is B to C and M to K. But process of elimination, they're the only ones left over. So take a moment, pause your video, try out number 14, and then compare it with mine in just a moment. All right, so let me draw mine in briefly so that you can see if yours match. Now, if you put, for example, 2 arc marks on G and L and 1 on F and K, that's still okay, as long as the congruent partners have the same markings. You are fine. GF, LK, FE, KM, and then there we go. Really important that you don't just guess on those. All right, coming down to the bottom, we're going to try some with some numbers. Now, everywhere that you see congruent, we do not want any numbers. We want a shape, an angle, or a side. So if we look at angle P, we want angle P's congruent partner. Well, angle P and angle T are congruent partners. Looking at letter B, JM is the second and third letter. So H to S is JM's congruent partner. Now, if we do problem F, this is a little challenging because we haven't really written a congruent statement before. But you have to include the triangle symbol, which is kind of obvious. And then we just do this letter by letter. So angle H is the second letter, so we want the second letter over here, J. Angle P is the first letter, so angle T. And angle S is the last letter, so that's angle M. Now, everywhere that you see an equal, that's where you're going to want a number. So let's take a look at the measure of angle M. We don't know what angle M is. However, we know that M is congruent to S. So you don't have to write that down, but you need to be able to find that information from the congruent statement. If we know angle S is 48, then angle M is also 48. Because remember, congruent means that their sizes are the same. How about angle P? The measure of angle P, well, that's going to be the same as the measure of angle T. And we happen to know the measure of angle T is 73 degrees. And then this MT means one of the sides. So M to T is the same thing as S to P. We know that S to P is 5 centimeters. So is MT. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of numbers to help you out there. Now, what we're going to do here very briefly is we're going to talk about the fact that if you know angle C and angle K are the same, and you know angle B and angle J are the same, that's this information. Because the triangles add up to 180 degrees, we know that these remaining angles, A and L, are also going to be congruent. And this is called the third angles theorem. This basically says if you know that 2 of the 3 angles are the same in 2 triangles, then the third ones will also be the same. So using that information, let's fill in this information at the bottom. Angle B has 1 arc mark. So does angle E. So angle E is 83. Angle A has 2 arc marks. Well, so does D. So angle A is 42 degrees. Now we know by the third angle theorem that F and C are going to be the same. So all we have to do to find out what those are is add up the 2 angles and subtract that from 180, just like we've been doing for quite some time. And you get 55 for both of those. So the measure of angle C is equal to the measure of angle F, which is equal to 55 degrees. And that's really helpful to us with some of these problems. All right, just a little bit more and then we'll stop the video. Turn to page 3. Now, in page 3, what we're going to do is cross out that part. And actually that little part. And we're going to identify all the congruent partners or the corresponding parts. So for this first one, what I like to do is I like to write out all the angles. And I like to write out all the sides. And then I'll do this part. I'll write the congruent statement. Once you have the angles and the sides written out, kind of listed, it's a lot simpler. So for example, angle A has 1 arc. So its congruent corresponding part is angle D. They're partners. Angle B has 2. Angle R has 2. And angle C has 3. And angle S has 3. Now to write out the sides, we have to look at the tick marks. So I'm going to start with the 1 tick mark. That would be side AB or BA, and side RD or DR. And you can say those however you want. You can flip the letters, but you do have to have 2 letters, and you do have to have the segment symbol on top. Now I'm going to go to the 2 tick marks. So I'm going to go BC and RS. And then I'm going to go AC. And its corresponding part is SD. So that's this part. What I just did there was that. Now, to write a congruent statement, how do we do that? Well, we're going to need, and that's a pretty sad triangle, we're going to need a triangle congruent statement that looks like this. Now, these 3 dashed lines down here at the bottom, those are like fill in the blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the first triangle right here. And I'm going to take those angles, the ABC, and I'm going to fill those in the same order that I have the listed ones. And then I'm going to come over here to the other triangle, and I'm going to take them in the same order. And now we're in good shape. We've got our triangle congruent statement. It is the easiest to make your triangle congruent statement from the angles. They're just simpler because they're only 1 letter. Now, this particular problem down here at the bottom really bothered people on a regular basis because the 2 triangles are stuck together. I don't like it when the 2 triangles stick together because I think that it's hard to see what's going on. So my rule in our classroom is if we see 2 triangles that are stuck together, we're going to separate them. Maybe they're fighting. I don't know. Probably not. They're just stuck together. See how I'm pulling them apart and I'm labeling them? Now, the hard part about this particular example is that both of the triangles have Q as part of their triangle. But the thing you have to understand is that this angle Q and this angle Q are not the same angle. So we wouldn't want to refer to that necessarily as angle Q when they're stuck together. So that's just kind of some background information. So now I'm going to use this information to label. So angle Q is the same as angle T. And that feels weird because there's a Q in both triangles. But remember, this is going to be my left triangle, and this is going to be my right triangle. Angle R and angle U, and angle S, and angle Q. And that's very uncomfortable. I get that. Now I'll do the sides. QR, TU, RS, UQ, and then SQ and QT. So the question's asking us, we haven't even gotten to the question yet. The question's asking us which statement is not necessarily true. So let's take a look at the statements and try to figure out which one is not necessarily true. If you look at RS, it has 2 tick marks. If you look at UQ, it has 2 tick marks. That is a true statement. If you look at SQ, it has 3 tick marks. QT has 3 tick marks. That is a true statement. Angle T has 1 arc mark. Angle R has 2. That one looks questionable. We're going to keep that one there. Now, these last 2 are a little tough because they name the angles with 3 letters. So angle RSQ, RSQ, that's angle S. And angle UQT, UQT, T, that's angle Q. So is S with 3 arc marks the same as Q with 3 arc marks? Yes, it is. That's a true statement. And then the last one, RQS, we're going to be here R to Q to S. That's angle Q. That has 1 arc mark. And then UTQ. U, we're up here to T to Q. That's angle T with 1 arc mark. So those are congruent. So the only one that looks like it could possibly be wrong is choice C. So I'm going to end the video here. I just want you to go on to page 4 and 5 and fill those in. And if you have trouble, just let us know.